Right, a very good morning to you all. I hope we're all fine. Sunday, the 21st of January 2024, and we're here to take a look at the weather forecast for the UK for the week ahead. A very disturbed week is on the way. A couple of quite big storms, particularly tonight and again on Wednesday. We'll be looking at all of the details associated with them. We'll be looking at the weather patterns. We'll be looking at the longer term trends and some ensembles, and we'll also be looking for the next cold spell. I know there are a fair number of snow fans here on this site. If you do like the information I provide, please do like, share, and subscribe. Really important to growing the channel. Right, let's move it all along. So let's start with the here and now. This is the situation for tonight. We have a named storm, Storm Isha, moving in from the west, and of course quite a disruptive night tonight. Reason for it is that, well, really, things have changed. The pressure patterns have changed. We've lost that that Greenland block, that northerly. What's happened is the upstream patterns are such now that we've got some very cold air that's spilling out of the northeast of the United States, coming into the Atlantic. Cyclogenesis is forming. That's the low pressures, and basically what that is doing is that is firing up the jet stream, which, as I mentioned a couple of days ago, is on a collision course for the UK. What will tend to happen as the week goes on is that the trend will be for this colder air coming out of the United States to transfer further north. So if we just push this forward through the week. So this is the deep blue. Look at New York today. Very, very cold air, significantly cold air pushing out. But as the week progresses, just notice how that very cold air transfers further north, coming out onto the Atlantic from Canada. And what that will tend to do is that will actually push the jet stream further north. So see, today you've got the jet stream firing in from 40 north across the Atlantic coming into the UK. As the week goes on, just notice how very slowly that jet stream starts to meander further north. So by next weekend, yeah, the jet stream is still very active, but it's more to the north of the UK. And what that tends to do is that will bring in an area of higher pressure to the south, particularly of the UK. So things could start to settle down. What that will do is that will turn things a little bit milder generally for the north, but also a little bit more settled further south. But anyway, let's get back to the current situation. We've got a couple, two or three quite deep areas of low pressure to contend with. This is the facts chart that we're looking at for midnight tonight. Storm Isha, that one will push out the way. Then we look at another storm coming in Tuesday night into Wednesday. Should affect more northern areas. We'll look at all of the gusts associated with that. And then towards the end of the week, with that jet stream pushing further north, high pressure closer to the near continent, perhaps by then things settling down and becoming a little less volatile. Right, let's get back to the situation with regard to the storm tonight. I'm going to use the GFS run. This is from Meteosil, and what I shall do is I will show you how this approaches the UK. So this is tonight at 7 o'clock. So the situation is such that we are going to be bringing in rain. We're going to be bringing in a lot of wind. Now, these purples, these are areas where you've got gusts initially pushing up towards 70 miles an hour. The lighter purples are around about 75, and the light purples, which you see just to the west, or should I say to the south of Ireland, they're gusts towards 80 miles an hour. What we'll do is we'll just push this forward. So this is at 10 o'clock tonight. And this is the time when we're looking at the most impactful winds across the UK. To see gusts in the high 60s across many parts of built up areas of England and Wales at that point is significant. Bearing in mind that generally in winter storms, you'll get these sorts of gusts around the coast. It's quite rare for them to be so like prolific inland. But the saving grace is that this is taking place overnight, so there will be less people on the road. But there are a couple of areas of concern in this. Yes, it will be a very windy night. Yes, there is going to be some impacts, but there is also an area of concern across Cumbria, across parts of northeast England, for a period before that pushes out the way. And then perhaps later on, as that storm progresses into the North Sea, another larger swathe of stronger damaging winds pushing across Scotland into the early hours before that all clears out of the way into the North Sea tomorrow. So a much calmer day. Well, not calmer, but yeah, less breezes tomorrow. Right. So what I'm now going to do is I am going to then just take a look at the weather situation up until tonight. So we've seen this weather system pushing in from the Atlantic. Today it's rather cloudy in some places, but it will brighten for a while. But it won't take long before the rain, the wind, and the as that low pressure pushes across to the north of Scotland by the end of the day. 949 is being modelled. 946 is the centre of the low, so a very deep area of low pressure. Tomorrow is a brighter day after we clear the early rain, but yes, still a breezy day, especially across the north, with a mixture of sunny spells and showers. And once again, that air is still cold enough across the north of the UK to have those showers falling as sleet or snow, particularly over the hills and mountains of Scotland and perhaps down towards parts of the Pennines further south. So that's the situation tomorrow. Tuesday, we start off relatively dry. Still be a few showers across the far north, but yeah, there will be a weak ridge coming in early on Tuesday. But it won't take long before that next Atlantic weather system pushes in. So there'll be a warm front pushing in from the west at around about 6 o'clock on Tuesday morning, and then that will progress across the UK quite quickly on Tuesday. Giving another spell of rain and drizzle, and again some sleet and some snow across those highlands of Scotland. So this then takes us into the latter half of Tuesday, and this is when the winds become strongest after the passage of the cold front has gone through. The breezes really do start to ramp up again. So we'll take a look at this second storm, which is progged to come through on Tuesday evening, and we'll just run it through. So once again, we start. This is at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Those breezes do increase, particularly around those western coasts. Just notice gusts approaching 60 miles an hour around the western coasts by late afternoon. But as we move into the evening, those strongest winds once again start to push across many northern parts of Britain. Not quite as intense as tonight's storm will be, but yes, a worthy blow again for many western parts of Scotland. Though I must say, not unusual for those guys at this time of year. So I don't expect the Met Office to be naming this next area of low pressure because it will be pushing out of the way. Perhaps gusts as high as sort of the high to late 60s on the Wednesday morning feature. Right, I'm just going to come back to tonight's feature. I just want to just bring you up to speed with the gusts. So this is at 7 o'clock tonight. The strongest gusts by then just coming into the west of the UK. By 8 o'clock, just notice the Irish Sea gusts in excess of 80 miles an hour. So just something to be keeping an eye on. By the time we reach 10 o'clock tonight, those strongest gusts really starting to ramp up across northern Britain. So much so that round about sort of midnight into the early hours of tomorrow morning, some of these gusts on the UKV are being progged in the low 80s. So northern England, those areas towards Cumbria, as I've mentioned, up towards the northeast of England, you do need to be on your guard. And then later on in the night, we need to just be careful across the north of Scotland and perhaps the areas around Glasgow and Edinburgh. I think the storm will pack a bit of a punch before it all pushes out of the way into the North Sea. We've looked at the Tuesday feature and we'll take a look at the winds. Right, now we will just go on for the weather for the remainder of the week. So after we push that storm out of the way on Tuesday night into Wednesday from northern Britain, it's another bright and breezy day on Wednesday, air coming in from the west northwest, but it will be milder by then. There'll be a few showers around those western coasts and over Ireland, and perhaps for a time just a spell of more persistent rain pushing through the English Channel. By the time we reach Thursday, we start to look towards the Atlantic again for a new weather system that will be pushing in. A warm front pushes in the early hours of Thursday morning, but this will be mainly restricted to the north and the west of the UK. Rain and drizzle, perhaps a little bit drier further east and south, where you could get away with a dry day. Later on in the day, those fronts do start to push in, and then Friday, we look to the west for a cold front, which will by then start to turn things a little cooler from the west with the return of some wintry showers across those northern hills for a time. However, yeah, the rain bands by then will always be just out towards the west of the UK, just pushing eastwards as we move through to the end of next weekend. But just notice by the end of next weekend, the pressure will be higher across the south. And we just bring back the return risk of some overnight frosts. Right, what I now just want to do is just go through the temperatures before we just take a look at the longer term trends. So today it is milder everywhere. The thaw is well underway, nearly complete, I would have thought, across the western and northern parts of Scotland. So highs today of around about 9 to 11 degrees across England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, but still cooler across Scotland, maybe 5 to 8 degrees and even colder still across the interior of Scotland over those highlands. Tomorrow we bring in a westerly, so temperatures a little bit cooler in the south tomorrow at around about 8 or 9, and still rather cold across Scotland. Temperatures perhaps 3 to 5 degrees. Obviously cold enough for those wintry showers over the Scottish hills and mountains, and temperatures in Ireland typically around about 6 degrees. We reach Tuesday. By then, we start to bring in another warm front in association with that next weather system. So we'll be pulling in milder air across Ireland. Look at that, 12s or 13s, and that milder air will be pushing eastwards across the UK throughout the course of the day. So yeah, we start rather cool in some eastern areas, but I think even here by the end of the day, after that warm front has gone through, temperatures will be in double figures. And Scotland, you will be cold initially, but even there, later on in the day, the temperatures will lift up as that second low pressure storm system pushes through. By Wednesday, we're in a run of westerlies again, so somewhat cooler again. We lose the exceptional mildness, but yeah, 8 to 10 degrees nationwide. Perhaps again, still a little bit cooler across Scotland. Temperatures 6 to 8 degrees, and across Ireland, around about 6 to 8 degrees as well. On Thursday, mild air starts to push in from the west again, so you're up to 11, possibly 12 degrees by the end of the day, but rather cool start in some parts of the east. But once again, things will be turning rather mild. On Friday, we bring in this rather cooler air from the west. Temperatures fall back a little bit, so across England and Wales, you're looking at temperatures of perhaps 6 to 8 degrees. Across Scotland, typically sort of 4 to 6 degrees, return risk of some wintry showers over those hills, and temperatures across Ireland are around sort of 5 to 7, so a little bit cooler. And then by Saturday, just notice by then, high pressure starting to establish itself on the near continent. We start to pull in perhaps some slightly cooler air off the near continent across England and Wales. So perhaps here, maybe 5 to 7, temperatures a bit lower, milder across Ireland with temperatures to around about 8, 9, possibly 10 degrees later on in the day, and Scotland around 5 to 6, maybe 7 degrees in the west. And then by next Sunday, high pressure should be in control. Temperatures a little bit cooler again across England and Wales, peaking at 5 to 6, milder across the west and the north of the UK. Right, longer term trends, we're just going to take a look at the 10-day chart. I'm showing you first off, let's get the GFS up, and it's a very flat mobile pattern. High pressure by Wednesday, the 31st, is sitting across Central Europe, so we bring in a run of westerly breezes. If we take a look at the ECM very similar. This is at 10 days. Once again, a big sluggish area of high pressure sitting across southern Europe, low pressure to the north, a very positive NAO signature westerly breezes all the way. And I think if we just finish with the gem as well, the pattern very similar, high to the north, low to the, or should say, low to the north, high to the south, westerly breezes, and typically mild temperatures. We'll just have a little look at the ensembles to see what the longer term trends are. If we just take a look at the 850s, very little on offer, I think. There's a lot of scatter from around about the end of the month, but I don't think there's any sort of clustering to suggest at this stage that another cold spell is imminent. A situation that is pretty similar with Warrington. Mild this week at times, as we've seen, quite mobile. Longer term trends rather mixed, and further north towards Scotland, up in Crieff, the signature is pretty much the same. Mild at times this week, but uncertainty later on in the month. Just going to show you the pressure distribution as the week goes on. So, as we've mentioned, as that jet stream starts to migrate further north, high pressure starts to slowly push in from the south. So, the precipitation spikes generally decrease towards the weekend. But yeah, a situation that is pretty much replicated with both Southampton and Warrington. Pressure climbs, but the temperatures stay relatively mild with little sign of winter on the horizon just yet. I hope you've all found the forecast useful. All look after yourselves. Have a lovely day, and ciao for now.